It's kind of amazing when it comes to fentanyl. This is like the most serious drug that I am seeing is taking people down in large amounts, in a large capacity. I just this week alone, had a really good friend of mine that relapsed. She died. She was found unresponsive in her house, and then about 2 weeks ago, there was another girl that I knew that happened to her too, unresponsive. It's Russian roulette. I mean, it's a straight crapshoot. You never know what you're going to get. It could happen that one time. I believe that the fentanyl user is probably under the impression that when they are going to sedate themselves, they're not going to take too much to the point where they will actually relapse. I think that they think they're an exception to the rule, as opposed to like the people that are all dying. Even when they see that there's people around them dying, they will still continue to play with fire. And I gave the friend of mine that died recently, about 100 days ago, she came back into our circle, our recovery circle, with another person that she was using with. And I warned them both. I said, you keep playing with fire, you're going to get burnt. She didn't listen. I think she was attempting to get sober for a while, but I don't think that she really put together many days. Now, on a bright note, in the last year, I was introduced to some people whose parents were actually reaching out to me about 2 years ago, and it was because their sons were using fentanyl excessively and extensively, and they were relapsing a lot and overdosing a lot. Now, one of them overdosed 2 different times, and he ended up going to the hospital a couple of times. 2 times he was in 2 comas from overdosing on fentanyl, and he actually lived through those comas. Now, every time that he got out, he still was seeking. He was drug seeking. He was med seeking. He was going after. He wanted to stay on sub maintenance for a while, and then he ended up just going right back to fentanyl and getting high. So before he came into my circle of my recovery circle, if you will, there was another young man who in 2020 went to 7 different treatment centers, 7 of them, and was not staying sober. He was constantly going right back to his drug of choice, which is fentanyl. And then finally he tried to come to a sober home that we have. And when he was sitting outside with it, first he came and looked at the house, and he looked at the bed and everything, and he said, what's the requirement of me coming into your house? And I said, well, you got to test clean. So are you going to come in tomorrow? He said, yeah. Next day he came with his mom. I guess him and his mom had gone to some family friend's house the night before. He came and he sat down, and he's, I had told him the day before, I'm going to test you. And I remember giving him a cup, and we test for fentanyl. And sure enough, he went and he gave me a urinalysis in the cup, and he tested positive for fentanyl. And I'm like, yo, man, like, I told you, like, you got to test clean. And he goes, oh, well, what do you mean? I go, what do you mean, what do I mean? My test shows that you tested positive for fentanyl. All the other drugs, it's a 16-panel test, and your drug of choice happens to show up on it, right? So what is that? And he just sat there and gave me this look, and like I was crazy. Like, and he told me, like, that can't be. There's no way. And his mom started sticking up for him. The rescue team had to come in and like, we went to our family friend's house last night. Everything is great. I'm like, man, with all due respect, he was probably in the bathroom at your family friend's house doing fentanyl. And so I told him, I'm not going to, I don't want to waste another drug test on you, but if I have to, I will. How about this? The test that I just got out of this box, I'm going to go get the exact same test out of a whole separate box, so you can't blame the test. And sure enough, he goes, no problem, I'll do it. I went and had him test again. It came positive for fentanyl. I go, now you're disrespecting me, because now we've got 2 different boxes that, same tests from 2 different boxes. Both of them are showing that you're testing positive for fentanyl. What's the deal? Like, you need to go get cleaned up. You got this stuff in your system. He starts lying to me and telling me there's no way. And I said, there is a way. There's no way that fentanyl mysteriously got into your system. He said, here's his excuse. He tells me that he was around some people that were smoking fentanyl a few days before. I said, even the simple fact that you were around people that were doing it says a lot about you. That you don't, it's that you're not really ready for the recovery process. Why would you be hanging out with people? But even so, like, you think I'm going to believe that you got a contact high from people that are doing fentanyl? Please, come on now. That's ridiculous. And so we ended up sending him to detox, and then he actually went to treatment, and I sent him to a good treatment center where they're hands-on and they make sure that people are really in the recovery process, not just some place where they come and it's like a resort type of setting where they get all the amenities and everything from treatment, like a place that's really, really involved with the individual's recovery process. And sure enough, he went there, and then finally after 90 days, he did come to our house. After he came, the other guy that was relapsing a lot and overdosing and going into comas, then he came next. And then they told me about another guy that was going to be coming that was constantly overdosing. And there's video footage actually I have of two of them when they are in the process of either passing out and almost overdosing or actually overdosing. So the third one, they said that there's, he's beyond human aid. I don't even think you're going to be able to help him. And sure enough, he came in and he tried to do a little song and dance, but he's been with us. And then the fourth one arrived too, about a month and a half, 2 months later, and he's fresh, he's new. But the beautiful thing is that the other night I sat in a living room with all four of them. And these were guys that pretty much they're dead men walking. And they're not supposed to be alive anymore. Because you think about it, like how many times can an overdose happen until it actually takes you out of the game, until you are actually going to like perish the earth, until you're actually dead, And some people will do fentanyl and die almost immediately. Some people can do it for a period of time. Some people are doing other drugs that are laced with fentanyl, so they don't really know that it's in there. And then some people are directly like seeking out the drug itself. Fentanyl. It's like that's what they want. There's dealers that will sell it to them, and they get it and they do it, and it captivates them. And I asked them, like, what is it about that drug that makes you like want it so bad? Is there like an ultimate euphoria? Is that why you seek it out? Because it's it's like heroin times 50, so they say. And they tell me, no, it just sedates you. It's like there is really no euphoria to it. It just puts you in this like a sedated state, and it's like that's good enough. And I'm like, why would you want to do that? Like I used to be a stimulant guy. I mean, I had my heroin run and I had my opium run, but like this is like the mastodon of heroin, of opiates, right? It's fentanyl. So I was sitting in the living room with these guys just having these conversations, Some of them are newer and newly sober, and some of them have been there for a couple of months. And then some of, like the one guy that was lying to me back in July, which is now, we're in April the following year, is he's now working at an excellent job. He graduated from university. He's doing very well for himself. And to me, like, that's a success story. So we have the person who just died this last week, who was struggling for a long time, that had been in and out of recovery, who had every opportunity to be able to get her life back. She was found in her one-bedroom apartment, unresponsive. She had mixed fentanyl with Xanax, and she was dead. Now her family has to deal with that. We're going to be going to her funeral and her memorial in like the next few days. And then we have these four young men who they could have been, dead too, but now they're doing something with themselves. They're actually in the recovery process. If they stay on the path and continue to keep doing what we do around here, they will have long-term sobriety, and that's the whole goal. Because if you don't really awaken to how asleep you are in life, literally falling asleep from fentanyl, because the stuff will, sedate you to the point where you're out of the game. If they can actually like be on this path and not resort back to that very thing that could almost immediately kill you, then we'll have some winners. We'll have some people that are really going to be able to get their lives back. And it's so beautiful to see when they break through their traumas, when they work through their insecurities, when they're really on like an altruistic plane and trying to share of themselves with others, and they're holding each other accountable. It's very nice to see like people break out of that vicious cycle of addiction. Because most people that do fentanyl, once they try it, it's really hard for them to stop. They'll keep seeking it out, and then their life goes in shambles. It becomes unmanageable. They will overdose, and they will sometimes, if they survive, end up in hospital rooms. But more often than none, once they get out, they go right back to it. They're like a magnet to the fentanyl. And so like this is a very serious thing that we're dealing with here. I mean, we've got celebrities that have died from fentanyl use, and they call it accidental overdose, meaning that they didn't know that they were actually going to die. However, if you have any capacity to think like this can kill me, best thing to do is to make a decision and say, I don't want to do it anymore, and I want to see how I can get off of it and stay off of it. It's one thing to stop; it's another thing to stay stopped. And when it comes to fentanyl addiction, I do not take it lightly. I have a passion in helping people so that I can see them turn their lives around and really become the people that they were meant to be, rather than get caught up in that whole fentanyl facade, because it really is a facade and it's unnecessary. Somebody's doing their rounds and they're making it to all the different states in this country, and they're dispensing all of the fentanyl, and it's being sold in large quantities. And then there's people that die, and then there's actually people that get arrested or get in trouble for fentanyl sales because they're slinging this stuff and they're killing people out there. And do not take this fentanyl epidemic lightly. It's a killer, and it's serious, and it's sad, and it's scary. But it's nice to see people come out on the other end, the ones that survive and stay sober. So if you know anybody who's suffering with fentanyl addiction, opiate addiction, any type of addiction to where their life is in turmoil and they're going down a dark path, we're available for you. You can call me at this number right here, and if you need more help, some professional help, please let us know, because I'm here for you.